And we are live. I think we're live. That's the name of this thing. I think we're live.
Are we live? We're live. We're live. We're live. What's going on?
Hello, folks. I'm going to turn down my monitor just a little bit so I can hear my boy Steve. Let me hear you, Steve.
What's going on, Dave?
I hear you. Hello, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving weekend if you are in the United States. I don't think they have Thanksgiving in other countries, but I'm not a very global world traveler, but that would make sense. They did not discover the United States to have the thanks of the giving of the day.
Well, they do have Thanksgiving in Canada.
Do they?
Yes, there is a Canadian Thanksgiving.
Interesting.
Yes.
Do you know the history
they don't
of
have,
that?
you know what? That's where my
Listen, we went to school in New Jersey.
That's it's the most, we have next to California. I mean, we have the best education system in the country. Come on.
That's funny, dude. Anyway, everybody, I hope you're doing well. We're doing kind of a simpler podcast today. I was going to do some guitar stuff. We're going to talk about the TONEX. We're going to talk about, Steve, are you monitoring to see if this is live and all that stuff?
In the live stream, I'm going to
listen to you. Audio's working and all that good stuff.
Make sure there's no reverb. So you talk.
I was talking. It's funny. I was talking to Steve earlier about the production value and everything. I mean, every week we're doing something new, and I have in my station, it's like a little spaceship. I was saying that I have 5 monitors. I have a Cintiq because I do art stuff too. I work Disney Imagineering and a bunch of these things. I do 3D animation for theme park design and development a lot of times. I kind of have a whole bunch of things I do. But having this huge Cintiq, which you draw on, it just takes up all your space. And then I have my other monitors in the background. And since my vision's getting worse as I get older, I have to always lean in or use different glasses for the longer vision. I don't want bifocals because I hate that shit. And look at this.
Are you there? Are you like at that point where like you need crazy like heavy duty glasses?
Not crazy heavy. Let me just do this real quick. I'm just adding tape everywhere. My mic just fell. It's bad enough to where like I see fine. It's just It's uncomfortable. It's like, oh man, I can't. And even when it's not so bad, there's a feeling that it's just slightly off, and it kind of annoys the hell out of you. I assume it's the same. We could talk a little about the Joe Bonamassa thing where he's losing his hearing a little bit. And it's been going
scary.
Around. Dude, but all these things affect you. So I ended up having to get these stands that actually, they're like these arms. There's a bottom piece that folds out and turns. And then there's another top piece that comes down and pushes forward. So I can get the monitors to almost all fly off my desk. And you can tilt them and turn them upways, and it's awesome. I mean, I just put it together today, and between that and now I'm trying to fix this mic. I have a lav mic that's super awesome. I've had it for years. It's like $1,000 system, wireless system. I used to use it in all the old videos, but for some reason it's picking up a lot more noise. And then I'm thinking with this, I got a boom arm that hasn't showed up yet, but maybe I can pull that in and use one of those close mics. But then you have a mic in front of you, and I don't know how that's gonna look. And production, you understand the director role, the producer role, all the riggers and the audio things that we have. And I got this thing the other day that's so awesome. I don't know if I can stretch it out here, but it's called the Stream Deck. Dude, this thing is amazing. It's literally just 32 buttons, and I don't think it's actually going to show, but it's 32 buttons, and one button you can make one a folder. So when you push the folder, it actually goes into another thing where now you only have these buttons set up and blah blah blah, and you go back. And each one is like a hotkey for. You can use it for video games, streaming, and it's just all this stuff that's so helpful because when I'm trying to switch
How the hell do you know what the
screens,
hell you're doing with that? It looks like you're on this Enterprise.
Well, because again, each one has, if the camera picked it up, which that's the other part. I'm trying to figure out the camera I have these SLR cameras, but I'm using a webcam. If I use the SLR cameras, I can get 4K video, but I need a better video card. I mean, I have an amazing computer, but all the slots are taken up. So I don't have any video, I forget what they're called, but you need a certain thing to make the camera show when it's streaming 4K. Right now it only shows 720 unless you have the certain inputs and blah, blah, blah. But those buttons all have little images on them. So you can actually make custom images. You can get, so you can see what it is instead of just reading words or seeing a million. It's awesome. It's all time saving, but it's huge production. Like, and this is just a little tiny system. Then trying to get the guitar to work, and that's what we're going to talk about with TONEX. My whole thing is trying to get to play through the computer, which I've never had to do. All my videos, we record separate tape and all, or separate cards and all that, and then we edit and mix later. Now we're trying to get this live thing, and I don't want the amp noise and the humming. And we've talked about being in Los Angeles and having so much electrical noise. So I figured if I got a TONEX or something plugged direct and got some good tones, but then you want it to feel a certain way, otherwise your playing's off. So anyway, Steve talked to me about the TONEX stuff, and we're gonna jump on that. But if anybody has any questions, comments, all that stuff, like usual, just comment away. Let us know. We'll interject conversation with what you guys want to talk about. But let's start talking a little about the TONEX. And actually, before we do that, let's start and get this out of the way. The drink of the day is this Fry Ranch. Not sponsored by Fry Ranch, but I found this when down in Malibu Beach, there's a liquor store down there. There's only a few stores. But this, they were having like, they always have these things in front of the store like, oh, have a free sample. And you're like, okay, I'll have a couple free samples. And this is a bourbon, a whiskey bourbon that is fantastic. They had like 3 or 4 different ones. This one was just unbelievable, dude. And I have not actually had this in a long time. And then my buddy got these cool Japanese style glasses that you can tilt on the side and they kind of roll around. So they actually swoosh the thing around while it's just sitting there. It was just super, super fantastic. Anyway, cheers, everybody. I hope you're having a great holiday weekend. And let's chat a little about the TONEX. Steve, tell me why you told me it was so something I needed to look into.
Well, you know, I picked up a TONEX. I was in a very early adapter to it, and it was for me. It was just, I was like, wait a minute, this thing is like, this was 2023 when it first launched in April, and it was like 360 or 70 bucks. I was just like, holy crap. And I heard the tones and I'm like, I gotta take a flyer on this. So jumped on it, picked it up, and it was out of the box, and I'm sure you're experiencing this now. It was a pain in the ass to set up. The UI is kind of terrible. Their customer service is pretty awful. I don't really have anything great to say about dealing with IK Multimedia. You know, we're probably not going to get any endorsements from them, but the product itself is fantastic.
Right.
The tones, the profiles, as they were, are pretty. There's a pretty good library of free. Yeah. So you have your 2 different levels. There's 3 actual levels. There's the free stuff that you can download through the ToneNet. Then there's the stuff that IK Multimedia gives you. And then they have their content creator program, which basically, like, as you know, is all their, you know, the guys like Tone Junkie and, you know, they have their own amps at home and then they profile them and then they sell them as packages. And then they have the ones as well where you can buy like the Eddie Van Halen, Alex Lifeson, all of those profiles. And I haven't bought any of them because I feel like the library on tone.net is pretty robust. But for me, the application is, I can literally, like, so here in my room, you can't see it, but to my left here, I have my Katana, which I use as an FR speaker just to kind of have it go through there. And I run it through my laptop, basically, so I can just kind of audition the profiles and then save them onto my computer and then switch them there. I'm basically using the TONEX just to kind of pass through right into the speaker, almost as a monitor. So for me, it's super easy. I get good quality tones. I just want to be playing and practicing. I don't really want to be sitting there tinkering around. I was actually today was playing with my amps off and on for the greater part of the day, and I was just like, holy crap, man! When you don't play with amps,
Yeah.
you forget how awesome they sound. But the TONEX is a great tool. It is not to replace them, but I
So
think dollar for
you're not doing much direct recording. You're
no,
doing
I don't
all
do
in
any.
room.
It's all in room stuff.
Okay.
Dollar for dollar. I looked at when I was getting into this. I was like, I can't justify buying a quad cortex. So the profiling, obviously. So there's the profiling and the modeling. And it took me a minute to
Right.
figure this out. This is old man stuff. Like with the profiles. And anybody watching that's not familiar, if you're an old man like I was or I am, and Dave is kind of learning now.
Hey, don't throw
Profiling
me
is
under the
basic.
bus, buddy.
You're old too, buddy. Um, Actually, how I think you're maybe a little younger than me, but not by
Yeah.
much.
Let's keep saying that.
But not by much. That's
You always got
but
to smack the back of the head when I'm walking away.
that's how we do it. We're brothers. So the profiling, basically, what that is they take an existing amp, they record it, it goes through the TONEX, and then it gets basically sampled through AI, essentially, and then you're able to put it up on ToneNet. So the one thing about the profiles is that like you can download a profile, but it's not like essentially from 0 to 10. You're taking a profile of it, say, at a mid gain, maybe at 5, and maybe you have the treble down. So basically, it's where that is on your amp is basically where you're going to be able to download it. So you have those different profiles set up, and so TONEX doesn't have what they call liquid profiling, which Kemper does. And then you have Kemper, you have Quad Cortex. Those are the other main competitors for them, but they're also basically $1,000 more. Fender has a unit as well, but that's more of a modeler slash profiler. And then you have your Helix, and Fractal, which are basically models of somebody who goes in and replicates it through the device itself, and you can basically create a profile or a model of that amp. So it took me a while to figure all of that out, and I do have a few things. I have a Pod Go, which basically is a poor man's Helix. It just doesn't have the DSP, the same amount of space to run different, so I can't run as many choruses or delays or everything on there, like the more robust stuff. But essentially, all I'm using these things for is an amp, a little delay, and if I want to run a pedal in front, that's what I'm doing. With the TONEX, I'm just using a Timmy in front of it. So if I want to get a little bit of a boost, that's really all I'm using it for. It's basically just a simple tool for me. I'm not going down the rabbit hole of recording and gigging and all
See,
that
that's what I think the
nonsense. But
problem is with. That's why it took me so long to get into all this modeling stuff, is because it really is a lot of research, right? There's so many options. I mean, we already have
yep.
option overload with the whole and anxiety with the whole pedals, amps, just everything, especially pedals. You go down that rabbit hole and you have a million Dumble-esque kind of pedals. You have the
Mm-hmm.
Tube Screamer ones, but everybody makes a different versions. And then you have the Waza customs and I mean, there's just so much, man, and a lot of us just want to play, right? I mean, we're working so hard on just learning new stuff, playing, transcribing things, and then now you have to focus hours of attention on, okay, do I need this piece of technology? And then when you go down that little river, now it splits into a million different ways, because it's like, the Quad Cortex, the TONEX, the Helix, this and that, and then each one, I haven't found in my research that there's a perfect anything. Because even when you find, because again, you're saying you're using a lot of this for plugging into an amp as it's your main tone and sound, and so you're bypassing the actual amp, so you don't have to blast the amp to get the amazing tone and feel. So now you get a really good, but I'm trying to do things that are more direct into the computer because I do have these amps and a lot of them are master volume, so like the Soldano and things. So you do, it does get a better sound and feel when you do crank it to 6 or 8. Some of the things, the Marshall S kind of things, you really have to go to 10 to really get that feel and put. Where can you do that? So now you end up using an aux box, which you still don't, I don't care what anybody says. For my ears, if you're in a real rehearsal room and you crank that and you hear it, as opposed to an aux box, there's a slight difference still. And depending how sensitive you are to that in your playing, all of that can affect everything. So now you're going down this big rabbit hole, and this TONEX that I just started playing with, I just got this week, it's at first, like you said, it was, at first I was like, none of these presets sound good. And then I started dialing in a few things, and there's so many little menus, and I'm like, okay, I got one Soldano setting to sound actually really good. But then I couldn't get a good, I still haven't experimented enough with it, but so here's I mean, everybody I'm sure knows or whatever, this is, the TONEX. Really, really simple unit, and then you basically push one button and you get all these things, the gain, the treble, the blah, blah, blah. You push the button here and hold it, and then you get all the bottom ones, which are basically your reverbs, compressions, and a few other settings. But in going through that, I only took a short time because it took so long to get that Soldano setting to sound decent that I was like, when I started messing with the clean one, I was like, man, I'm so exhausted. I just want to play. So now I when I go to a clean kind of thing, it just sounds so sharp and digital. I haven't been able to get that soft, fendery, spongy thing. And none of the presets are doing it off the bat. But then I hear things like those packs, the Van Halen pack, and those things sound so good. But are there variables that when I get it, it's not going to sound that great? I don't know.
I think it's just a matter of putting the time in. Yeah, like I'm not a big forum guy, but I am on Facebook and I read them, and I always see people complaining like, "Oh, this thing is so." It's like, dude, really? You're gonna complain? Like, I'm sorry. This is an amazing piece of equipment. For $400, if I want to go download a Mesa Lone Star and it sounds 90% of a Mesa Lone Star, I don't have to go out and spend $1,800 on a used Mesa Lone Star. And to me, that's the win. So yeah, you got to put the time in. You have to learn how to use it. You have to become adept at understanding how to dial it in. I mean, and there is a steep learning curve, and you are, like I said, you are kind of on your own. Amplitude says, or I'm sorry, IK says that they have good customer service, but I've had stuff where like I sent them an email and they never even bothered getting back to me. So fortunately, the people on the forums are supportive and very
helpful. But that's
helpful.
the thing. That's the rabbit hole, the forums, the YouTube. I mean, you're spending so much time invested in. It's not like, again, remember back in the day, we talked about this before. An amp, you get a PV Bandit, maybe a pedal, you plug in,
plug it in,
you're done. Here, you're going down this rabbit hole, which there's an enjoyment in it. Like I love technology, but again, I get overwhelmed sometimes when I see trying to do this podcast. All the technology, the OBS studios, the software you have to use, the things that are going to speed up your production workflow. Same thing with the pedals. I mean, I had that H90 Eventide for probably 7 months before I used it a little, and then I just went back to my Timeline and my Mobius, my Strymon stuff. They're a little easier to handle. Plus, I had been using them already for years. But then I was like, I plug in the Eventide, and I start going down that rabbit hole. And there's level problems. You have to understand what you're plugging into, how you're doing the signal path, and again, the struggle of all that. So I'm trying to figure out that. Then I go back to my Strymon to try and dial in some more specific things that I never did, because now I'm in this rabbit hole again, and I'm down that path. Well, wait, how do you do this? How do you get two algorithms to cross over and do it properly? So then you start talking about the TONEX, and it's like one rabbit hole after another in different paths, and it's like, man, I just want to play.
Yep.
It's
I think you in the beginning you're gonna put the time in, and you're gonna spend more time figuring it out. But once you do and you get it dialed in, you're just like, for me now, it's really like I have a handful of settings, um, and the ones that I go to, again, are they perfect? They're not perfect, but
right.
it gets what I want. Again, and the way that I look at all of this stuff is that it's a tool to help keep you motivated. I have a couple of different devices. I have the Pod Go. I have a couple of New X. The brand New X has a couple of lower end modelers that were like $100. I use those occasionally. I have the Yamaha THR 10, and again, they're all tools. When something kind of gets a little thin on the inspiration chart, then you plug into something else. Like today, I was like, you know what? I'm a little burnt out on playing single coil stuff. Let me plug my Les Paul in. And I was like, whoa, I forgot how cool Les Paul was. So I think, again, it's not about collecting. I mean, guys collect stuff, but I don't collect stuff to collect stuff. I collect stuff to freaking use it when the inspiration is like low. And, so for me, I'm always trying to keep myself playing and keep my hands moving and learning new stuff. And that's really what equipment is for. For a guy that's not gigging, you really shouldn't have a ton of stuff, but you should have this stuff that, like, you get bored of one thing, you don't want to get rid of it, you move to something else, and then it's everything is cyclical. So, but
No,
you'll figure it out.
I think too. There's so many, like even the preamps that you're using. I'm using a Yamaha mixing board to do all this stuff, and then I have a Focusrite thing that is my other option, and the preamps that are actually in there. Some I've been watching things that say, oh, the preamps in this suck and this and that, and you just, again, I don't take much of that, but I do notice when I plug in, they offer different things as far as what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So even with the TONEX thing, when I started dialing in, when you dial off your volume knob, I was
Yes.
expecting one thing and I was getting a slightly different thing. I wasn't getting really what I would hear from the amp. And then you mentioned that what you said, a dynamic or something, the way they record the thing. So it's almost like with the TONEX, if you have a Soldano or something, you need to record it at different stages so that you have the option of what it sounds like when you dial off that thing, because otherwise you're getting a picture of the amp at that setting. And now you have, even though they say you have tone, mid, bass, treble, all that and everything, it's not really like an amp turning those knobs, truly, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, like, from the perspective of the ToneX, I mean, again, it's really recording based on that specific spot. So, it is definitely responsive when if you pull it back on your guitar, I can dial stuff back. But really, it's it's not exact. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
Right.
it is responsive, though. I do find it to be a very responsive application.
But what did you say
Certain
about the other things, modelers that have some kind of dynamic version of that? What was that?
Oh, so Kemper basically has what they call liquid profiling.
Right.
And what that does is that gives you the full, let's just say 0 to 10 on the amp. That gives you 0 to 10. Whereas with a ToneX, you're just taking a snapshot of, say, you have your amp on 5.
Right.
That's all you're getting. And you can dial in, maybe 4.5 and then maybe 5.5, but that's it. You can't, and it's really like, there's no real, like, you're not going to be able to get it completely clean and you're not going to be able to get it completely gainy. So
Right.
if you have like a deluxe reverb and you profile that through the ToneX, you're basically going to receive whatever you're recording that amp at.
So
But yeah,
do
so
they tend to on a ToneX profile at different versions? Like they'll
yeah, there's
profile
a
it.
lot of there's
Okay.
guys that do that, and I mean, it's nice to have it, but I don't really need 20 different spots of an amp. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Right.
need. It's just like that's what an EQ pedal's for.
Right. Right. Right.
I mean, you can kind of EQ it, again, you got to find what you like. You got to find the thing with doing this too is like, and it doesn't matter if you're using TONEX or, um, quad cortex or Kemper, it's really the same thing. You got to find the guys that you like, and you got to find the profiles like that you like, and you will work there. I mean, there's guys that, you see their stuff and you go like, oh, those guys suck. You know what I mean? Like you're not even going to waste my time with downloading those profiles. But I think once you have them, it's a big rabbit hole too of going back and constantly like looking for stuff. I mean, I'm obviously I like plexis, so I look for plexis. I look for dumbles, and then I love matchless. So if I see that stuff, I'll always sample it, even if I know that they're shitty. You know what I mean? Like even if I know the guys that profile them can never get it right, they're always too bassy or it sounds too far away, and but you never know, something may work. um so I have the stuff that I like, but there's a lot of bad, again, there's a lot of that bad stuff. And so with Tonex, they're proprietary, like, so Tonet's proprietary to Tonex. And then you have this whole other new thing, neural amp modeling, which is another whole ecosystem of profiles and captures and stuff. And I don't have any of those devices yet. So I think for Christmas I'm gonna pick up the Velton GP5, which is like $80, dude. And you sit there and you're like, wow, man, it's incredible how much this gear is has come in terms of the quality of stuff, and then just for the cost. Um, yeah, you can go, like I said, like if I want to go get a Lone Star, I can go get a Lone Star. If I want to get a Matchless, or I want to get a Dr. Z, there's profiles of them and they're pretty good. I mean, again, it's all how you use them. That's really all it comes down to.
So that NAM stuff, I was again. That's the other rabbit hole. Started going down that, and so you need. Somebody said is it a free software? Like is there a software version of it where you can just plug in and use and mess
Yeah,
around,
there is.
and you don't
There
need
is.
to actually get something to experiment with it?
You don't need. I think you could do it through your computer. I don't. So I don't know enough about that to feel comfortable, kind of suggesting it. But I do believe that you can. There, whatever
Right.
the application is. But for what I wanted to do, I was like, for $80, this little pedal. It's the
Yeah.
same way. It'll store a couple, and then you can run it through your FRFR, your monitors basically. And so that's really all I want to do. I mean, but again, like today I spent the whole day going through my Fender 68 Vibro Champ, and I was just like, it was my Les Paul and then one of my Strats. I kept going back and forth, and then I was playing with the Angry Charlie, or the AT rather, and I'm like, oh my god, like I forgot how good amps sound. So it's good, man.
Yeah, there's
I
just
wish I
so many
had.
options. It's such a fun time to be around this. If
It's
anybody watching this does any of this stuff and has any experience with this, any suggestions, love to hear, because the more information we can get without having to do our own research,
right. We're
or if
lazy.
you can point us in the direction of what you found to work. Again, there's so many avenues of this, whether it's doing it for recording through your computer, or if it's doing, just playing in your room. Again, the FRFR thing, I hear that all the time. I haven't done any research on it because it's not something I've needed. But what
Right.
exactly is that? Is that like speaker cabinet
It's
simulators?
it's basically like a powered amp that's meant to like use for playback for
So
these devices.
it's an actual amp.
Correct. Well, amp isn't the right word. it's just a powered monitor essentially that's meant to, you know, have these profiles and models play through it. That's
But
really
how's that
all it
any different
does.
than a regular speaker, like an amp speaker?
Well, because you're picking up, when you're using an amp, you're picking up all the color of the amp itself.
Oh, right.
Whereas these are
But
solely
the katana, you're not. You're plugging
I'm
through the back end
running
of
it
it.
through the right, I'm running it through the loop.
So is that the same as an FRFR or no?
Not technically. I mean, it's not really the same, but I mean, for me, you know, I'm not going to go out and buy an FFR, you know, just for that one use. So it does color it like a little bit, obviously, because it is running through a loop, but
Right.
I keep everything flat. So, you know, it doesn't
Right.
really, but it, you know, I'd be lying if I
Dude,
said it didn't.
it's so much. Again, it's a fun time to be around with all these options. Gets a little stressful sometimes because, again, going down that avenue of looking into all this stuff and then going back to your pedal board and trying to figure out, again, it's not, listen, an Angry Charlie pedal has a certain amount of settings, this and that, but when you start getting into the digital, like, again, the Eventides, the Strymons that have all these things, and then you're always constantly updating and getting new algorithms and stuff, you know, you know, I just want to get back to playing. And speaking of just playing, let's talk a little about there's a guy that somebody introduced me to the other day. Let me see if I have him. So I sold an amp a little while ago, Marshall 1 watt anniversary thing, and he was talking about, I don't know if he was taking lessons from this guy, but I think he taught at GIT or something. But his name's
Okay.
Raphael Moreri,
Okay.
Moreira, and he's
Okay.
on YouTube. It says he's a Brazilian American guitarist, singer, songwriter, currently lead guitarist with Paul Stanley's Soul Station. I guess he's got a band. Performs.
Yeah, he's got like a soul band, like Motown stuff.
Okay, and this guy played Paul Stanley, Kiss, Pink, Christina Aguilera, Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block, Eagles, Aerosmith, Steven Tyler. You know, he's got a good list. And then he's also, apparently he was on The Voice or something. He's one of those guitar
Okay.
players. But just started listening to him, and dude, super fantastic. Little jazzy fusion, little rock, but you know, of course, with all those Paul Stanleys and this and that, he does everything. But man, I love finding these new guys because I think in the world of my YouTube algorithm, what it picks up, again, it's picking up all this 80s. It's picking up, because every day, there's 3 guys I search for every morning, afternoon, and night, at least 3 times a day. I always throw in Scott Henderson. And the reason for that, mainly, one, you know, absolutely love him, but he's got a guy that takes down the videos all the time. So because Scott wants only stuff that he puts up, and he wants to be able, because he hates when people have iPhones and the tone sounds like shit, and maybe he made a few mistakes. I don't think he really cares about that much as much, but the tone, and through these iPhones everything gets compressed. And if he has a ton of videos out there that just sound like shit, he's like, I don't want this up there. So his videos, if you don't get them within the first hour, they're gone. So I literally have a folder of 5 to 10 years of stuff that I've downloaded.
You just
YouTube.
downloaded before they get taken
So
down?
I have it because there's some amazing playing on there that it's live improv.
Right.
And so I put him in. It's so stupid. But then I put Shane Terry. So I'm like trying to race to see, okay, did anything come up? And then I put in Shane Terrio because I'm always interested in his stuff. And now that he's got a channel, every week he's putting some stuff up. And Dan Huff. So those things. Anyway, the long story short is that, and even Dan Huff, like there was a guy, a Japanese, I think guy, he had a YouTube channel, and he'd play the solos of all these obscure records from, Michael Jackson stuff, whatever it was that Dan played on. And it was solos, but you'd find solos that you never heard before. And then I'd download those, transcribe them, whatever. So, but now Dan's kind of on YouTube a lot now, so I don't have to really do that hunt anymore. But anyway, my algorithm on YouTube is constantly feeding me 80s stuff and, all the same stuff. So when I find somebody like this Raphael guy that I would never thought of, it
Yeah.
just opens up. You're like, wow, there's this. Is there anybody that you've discovered lately that really is on your radar that's new?
Not new. I mean, you know, it's kind of sad, and I mean, it's probably my own fault, but I really haven't come across anybody that is like, within the last 5 years, there's nobody that I'd heard. Uh, Definitely, like as far as 10 goes back, I would say Tom Monda is one for sure. And Brendan Ellis, who's like a super metal guy, but he's an amazing player. But no, as far as like fusion guys go, it's like the old stock. You know what I mean? Like it's just the Hines, the Hendersons, the Timmons, the Verheins. It just hasn't. I haven't heard anybody that's really put. I mean, obviously, like the guys that are big, like Mateus Asado and stuff, but I don't haven't heard anybody where like you're like, whoa, this guy's awesome. So I'm gonna have to
It's,
check that dude out that you just mentioned.
yeah, no, I'll
Oh, we have a
send you a link to
comment.
him.
We have a comment
I got
from
somebody in here.
Josh. Josh is saying he's loving his Tonex so far. Uh, Thank you, Josh. Yeah. So the other thing too, just kind of going back to the Tonex real quick. Um, I was saying to you, Dave, you should maybe have started with the smaller one just to see if you liked it. But I mean, for $100 versus 400, I guess it's
Well, I think
not
it's
such
like
a
150 for the small, and the new one,
right,
the larger one's 450. It's on sale right now for 350 everywhere.
right. I mean, it's kind of it's really a no brainer. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I definitely like, if mine died tomorrow, I would run out and immediately get another one. It's one of those pieces of gear that
Yeah,
I
no,
like.
I'm
But
excited about using it, and not only that, like once I plugged the USB into my computer, did some of the the software things. It gives you a lot of options. You're
yeah,
changing speaker cabinets, you're doing all these things just to make the tone sound a certain way. There's even though and there's some pedals and delays. It's limited on some of those things, but it's enough to really get you in a good place. And then the cool thing was, then I unplugged it all from my computer and I just sat on my couch with my guitar plugged in,
hmm
headphones plugged in, and then of course
hmm
the power cord. So there's a few wires, but I'm just on my couch and I'm just playing this. So I could see where if I had, there's so many slots, 100 slots or whatever it is. So if I had a bunch of amps that I wanted, I'd be able to carry this portable thing around with me. Whereas before I was using the Katana Go, which I still like, I really do. And funny enough, this Soldano thing, so I dialed it in, and then on my Katana Go, I have a Soldano-ish kind of thing. And so I was A-Bing the two of them. And they both sound great in their way. They're both slightly different on the way the note falls off. So if you hit a note and you let it just drag, there's kind
right,
of more of a cutoff on the Katana Go than there is on the Tonex. This kind of more
right,
naturally fades out, which I like, especially if you're dialing off the tone or the volume knob and you're getting a little bit of those dynamic things in there.
yeah,
The Tonex feels a little more dynamic, not enough to. So again, this is the scenario of, are you using it for playing through your computer? Are you using it live performance? Are you using it as a travel thing? For me, when I go from home for the holidays, I'll probably bring this Tonex just because I want to learn more about it. But normally, I just bring the Katana Go, a little tiny plug and play thing. You don't need any wires. You don't need any, it's just little tiny headphone, an Apple headphone set or whatever.
yeah.
And you don't need power cord. It's powered by itself. It's self-charging. So there are definitely, and then Josh said, I have a Tonex pedal with the X-Sonic Air Step. You know what? And that's the other thing. I was seeing that, and I do realize where that Air Step thing, now you're adding more things to the mix, right? So that would become a little less travel-esque, because now you have a pedal and an Air Step and then this and then you have chords. And what if one of your cables, your guitar cable goes down, or one of your,
Right.
so you have all
Well,
these little
you're
things.
probably running it like with a board too. I mean, because I see a lot of guys that, what they'll do is they'll run the Tonex, then they'll run a Pod Go, as their effects for the Tonex. They don't,
Oh,
they'll,
interesting.
Yeah, so there's all of that for guys that gig. I see a lot of guys that use it for gigging. Um, Unfortunately for, for those guys, some of them post, like they post videos and they're getting very serviceable tones live. I mean, I haven't heard. I think that's the other thing too. Guys are going out with this stuff and most people can't really tell the difference. They don't and they don't care. People don't care. You know what I mean? It's
Well, so
only other
so that
guitar
that's the thing
players.
too. The I think what we mix up again with all of this, if you're playing in your home and you're just playing by yourself, there's a difference between the tone you're getting and the feel you're getting. And those
Yes.
two are very apparent at the same time. If you're playing a
Mhm.
live situation, as long as you're getting the tone, that feel isn't as big because you've got all this air moving, you have all the other dynamics that are happening that you
100%.
don't have the sensitivity of that feel as much unless
Yeah.
you're doing the sound check. You could have that feel and all that. But my biggest lesson was when I saw Steve Vai live at, God, it was so long ago. It was at the Hard Rock on Sunset Boulevard. Remember that's not
Right.
even around anymore. But I remember he was playing there, and it was
Was he
he
using the
actually came
fractals?
out. He What's that?
Was he using the fractals?
No, I think he was using. I think he was using Boogie or something. There was something
Oh,
a
okay.
little off that I was like, wow, I never saw him use that. And the amazing thing was he came out to do the sound check, which I've never seen. Not his guitar tech guy do that or something. And he was playing, and it sounded great, but it sounded so thin and so just piercing to your ears. Now I have a really high sensitivity to high pitch and loud noises, so my
Sure.
volume's always down. I tend to turn trebles way down, and I'm sure
Right.
if I recorded
But
certain
live,
things,
that makes complete sense because you need it to cut through.
it's got to cut through. So I was listening to that and I'm like, man, that sounds horrible. And then when the
Yeah.
band came on, he strummed something and
Yes.
did a little lead line, and it was with the band
Yes.
right before the band started
And
kicking
it
in. I was like, well, the
probably put
tone
it
hasn't
right
changed.
above.
Yep. And then once it went in, dude, it sounded
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. 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 I
So
know.
that's with all these things, like if you're listening in your home and you're doing this, there's so many different variables that are important to what you're actually doing. So when you're sitting
Sure.
on the couch and you're playing, you may not be getting that feel, but if you actually play it with a lot of, somebody was talking about recording in a home studio, and a lot of people get their tone without listening to any of the stuff that's going on, and they're like, oh, this sounds great. And then once you record it, it's all buried in that mix. So a lot of
Yeah.
times you have to get that tone, get the feel, then turn on everything else you're going to record over, make sure
Yep.
it's still cutting through, and then find the happy medium.
Yeah. And I think a lot of this too is like, again, when you're gigging, you're going to have your gig settings and you're always going to run everything like more treble because it's got to cut through. And it's funny. I remember this is hysterical. I remember we were playing. I was in my band, and I used to use an 8 JCM 800, and I forgot to switch it. I forgot to switch it from my home setting, and I just cranked the volume up, but I forgot to actually re EQ everything. This was like in the early days when I started playing, and we're like playing, and my singer's like, it's like, dude, your tone sucks. Your tone sucks. I was like, all right, settle down. Like,
That's funny.
but he was right. It was just all mud because I had my home setting. But he was so pissed. Like I was like, so literally, like I took a pencil. I had like a little scraping so that I had from my, and every venue is different, but for the most part, I had my live settings, and I would have my home settings when I was using it. It's so funny, man, to think like just play. There was like this place in Jersey, this place called Studio One that we used to play, and it was where all the big bands would come, touring bands and stuff. But they have 3 flights of stairs to get to the stage. So, you walk up the stairs and you bring your guitar and, you're good. But then you got to bring your your you're bringing your Marshall stack 410 or 412, and so it's like next thing you know, I got like two guitars on my back. I'm my singer's carrying the back. I'm carrying the front up 3 flights of stairs, and you're just like, what the hell, man? You
Yeah.
know, the things you would do for gigs, man. It was just like, it's the craziest thing, but I would do it all over again if I
Well,
was 20
and
years
yeah,
younger.
and again, that you see all these guys like everything's got a purpose and a reason. So like Jimmy Herring will use Axe-Fx, and you're like, man, but then he still has his amps, his 2 or 3 amps up there, and you're like, then why does he do? Well, he's using it just for the delays and reverbs and things like that,
Sure.
and that's all he's not using it for any other tonal options. And so
Right.
there's so even pedal boards, a lot of times, man, you go, especially in a live situation, you have a pedal board with all these wires and all these things going in. There's a point of failure in absolutely everything you do, whether it's the
Mhm.
pedal, the battery, or the power supply, whether it's the wire going between. And man, how many times you'll see Steve Lukather like almost want to punch his guitar tech because something goes down, his guitar tech's crawling on stage moving things around, and he's trying to find that one piece that's broken, and these things just happen. So I assume Jimmy Herring's idea for using the axe effect is you have all these, and he has 2 of them just in case one goes down, and you have all these effects, delays, reverbs, this and that don't have any other connections except inside the unit, right? So now he doesn't have any of those points of failure. And I'm sure these are learning experiences. I'm sure at a certain point he's like, man, I'm just sick of going through this anxiety of having points of failure. So
Right.
even with amps too, right? I mean, you can bring Joe Bonamassa has a bunch of amps on his stage and stuff, but at the end of the day, what if his Dumbo goes down, right? What if even if he has a deluxe reverb or something like that, what if one of those goes down? Sure, you could pull out another deluxe reverb or whatever, but those are big things. You got to carry backups of backups. Well, if you have a TONEX and you have multiple things plugged in, like you have multiple settings. Well, if you have two exact, and this is for the touring guys, if you have two exact TONEX, if one goes down, you just plug the other one in and you have the exact same settings and you're up and running again. So same
Right.
thing with traveling. So I see Josh is talking about this air step, and he's saying he's got the cables running through the FRFR camera or cabinet. But and that's an awesome option because it simplifies a lot of things. Now, again, I'm thinking of traveling, I'm thinking of home use, I'm thinking of recording use, and for traveling, even having an air step and something else, and he runs it through his FRFR cabinet. I'm wondering, so what cabinet do you actually use, Josh? I'd be interested in hearing that. And how long have you been using all this stuff? Are you really adept to all this? Have you experimented with the any other modelers, the Axe-Fx, the Quad Cortex? There was something about the Quad Cortex. Didn't they just come out with a new
They
update
came
of
out with
something?
yeah, they have their update coming. That's the other thing too. The rabbit hole is that they have their lower cost I like so they have like their I apologize. The Quad Cortex. I was just looking at it the other day, and I forgot the name of it. The smaller one is like $700 or $800. But what they do is they get you in cheaper, but then they sell these modules like so you can like different levels. So it has different, access, and it just gets to the point where how much do you need?
Right.
And Oh, so yeah, Josh is saying he's using the TONEX cabinet, the 112 FR. So
Okay.
I think keeping it as simple as possible
Right.
has been the best way. But then, dude, look, I mean, this whole thing with digital is clearly not going anywhere. And like the new Helix just came out, the Stadium, and I'd love to play with one, but
But that's a $2,500
$2,000.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say like that's crazy. At that point, I, I'll go get a Lone Star. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I will rather spend that money on a real amp and
But again, I could see the
just
touring musician wanting something like that because it has all the options. You don't have to. Everything's in it. I mean, that's what turned me
it
on to
has
the
it
Boss
has
Katana. The
Hmm.
katana, I was never interested. I have all these great amps, and then I was in Guitar Center, and the guy was getting the guitar I had ordered, and he's like, "Dude, you got to plug into this. You got to see what it's all about." And he turned me up to like 10 basically on 100 watt, which was insane in Guitar Center. I never, again, with my, I don't like to turn on any, and he said no 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 because he plugged me in. And I turned up the volume to 3 or 4. He's like, no, 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 crank it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was the most fun 15, literally 15 minutes. I just kept playing and playing, and it felt great and it sounded great. And he's like, dude,
Yeah.
and it has everything. It has all your boss pedals, it has all your things. And I'm like, man, in
It's
this one little thing to have access to everything.
dude, it's utility. And I
Yes.
think that's the trade-off. I mean, again, all of this stuff is utility.
Yeah.
And if you can make peace with that, that's really where it's going to make sense. And so I can't justify spending $2,500 on anything. To me, $2,500 is literally like pretty much, it's more than my mortgage payment at this point. So I mean, like, I mean, I get it; it's one time, but I,
Right.
I, I just I can't justify that when you could go and spend $100 and get a Tonex, used
Yeah.
pedal, and it again, it's also all, I also understand, when you're dealing with that, you're also getting a better UI, you're getting new and improved hardware, you're getting all the everything is improved. That the
Yeah.
old Helix was 10 years old. um and so I get all of that, so there is something to be said. You're paying for that premium, and that this Helix will probably be around for another 10 years. So yeah, I still don't have a Helix. I have the Pod Go, and it's half of a Helix, and it's more than enough. Like, I wouldn't need a Helix at that
Yeah.
point. So
Yeah. It's
if
just,
I was
it's just a
if I
lot
was
as far as the having all these options again and the financial. I mean, I look at my pedals. When I haven't been using a pedal board. I was just going through Soldano and a few other things, and I'd have a delay, reverb here and there, and everything. And then I started experimenting with the pedal board again because I went through the Fender amp, and it was, I pull out all my pedals and I just see pedal after pedal after pedal that are all very similar, very tube
I
screamer,
know,
very and I'm just like, man, okay, $300 there, $200 there, $500. I mean, I
I
was
know,
fortunate enough at a certain point to be able to do that all the time, and now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, man, that's $10,000 worth of gear in just
I know,
pedals, and you're
I
like,
know,
that's absolutely insane, and I don't know how
I
certain
know.
people, you know, so and then when I realized I've been sitting with this pedal board I just put together with all those things, it's got 3 distortion or gain pedals. It's got a few other things and a few effects. Grant, it still has the H90, has 2 timelines, the Mobius and the timeline. So I mean, you're still talking $2,000 there. You got the other ones $300 each. You're still talking about a $4,000 pedal board. And then I have 30 other pedals over there that I'm not using, and all these are enough. So I'm like, you have to be happy with what you have, and that's why these things like the Tonex are great because it gives you all those options. You don't need a
Right.
delay, a reverb. Now, if you want to pile that, and I think you were saying you actually do that, you use a delay or something before or after, or a tube screamer or something before or after it.
Yeah, I will. I'll use a Timmy in front of my Tonex, just for,
Okay.
if I want to use it as a boost, or if I want to have it as a gain in front of, for certain, dumbly kind of stuff. Um, so it just more or less is kind of just an additional seasoning, because the one thing that the Tonex doesn't have, so they added when they did their last upgrade, they added on the back end, or you can put it on the front end too. They added modulation and, I believe, delay. So they didn't have that before, but they don't have gain. They don't have pedals yet. So that's the one thing. But at that point, I mean, you're getting all this. I mean, I don't know how they couldn't do that and not sell that as an option, but um, so I do put a pedal in front, and the Tonex takes pedals really well. I'm surprised at how well it's it definitely, I've been using it for the pedal thing was just an accident too. I didn't even try to use it with pedals. I was just like, I plugged it in and I was like, wow, this sounds great. So um and Josh just said that he's using a exotic soul driven in the front for boost. Dude, I I just was about to say, Josh got me. I was just about to say I have a soul driven and I wanted to try it. And so because we were talking about you talking about all your pedals today, as I was saying, I had the Muse driver and I had the soul driven, and then I had the Joyo, which was like kind of a like one of the like those clones. So it was like all kind of those, mid gain, except for the Angry Charlie. But I had 4 or 5 pedals out. It was those 4 or 5, and I was just like, it's like, oh man, these are all kind of similar, with the exception of the Andy Timmons one, the JHS one. But man, I was like, I want to put that. I was like, the one that I kept coming back to. I was just like, that soul driven pedal is pretty versatile. So I'm gonna probably pull the Timmy out and try that in front of it. But then it's just like, man, you start doing that. I don't want to do too much of that. The Timmy's great because it's pretty, it pretty much sounds the same. But that's funny. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Lone
Yeah.
Star captures are great. There's a bunch of them. I love that mid gain kind of stuff. Like, I love plexi stuff on it. It's so much fun.
So the Lone Star captures are native in the Tonex.
There is, I think, might be a few, but you have to download them off of ToneNet. There's a couple of
Oh, okay.
guys.
And they're
Yeah, there's
free.
some really,
ToneNet is a free.
yeah, there's a couple of free decent ones. There's 1 or 2 free decent ones. There's a
Right.
lot of bad ones, man. There's a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah. So so I'd be interested, Josh. I appreciate these comments and stuff, especially from somebody who seems like they've been using this for a little while.
Josh is a big Andy Timmons fan. I got another one here, man. This is awesome.
That's funny. The BB preamp, God, and in that, you know what? Funny enough, the BB preamp, man. I remember when I first got that. I loved that pedal.
Still
And
love it, dude. It's still awesome.
yep. That's the only one that out of all the exotic things, I sold an AC. I rebought an AC because I went up to Alan Hines' place, and that's his main one. He's always used that.
Yeah.
And he used the AC and the RC, never used the BB. He said he just didn't like the way that it compressed, but I love that. And then he ended up
Also,
making,
it's also more, it's way more gain than he
yeah,
ever uses.
right. And so I'd be interested to know you pay for good captures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I was going to ask you, Josh, in the comments, if you have you paid for any good captures that you liked, especially I've been looking at the Van Halen ones, the 78 and the whatever. I guess they have 3 different packages. They're all like $50, and there's like an 80, an 82, or an 84, or whatever. There's different ones, and I was like, man, but I wonder if they have any of the newer, like the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, where he starts using more of the depthy kind of effects. I don't know if that's in there. And I assume you need each one because, like you're saying, these Tonex captures are captured at the amp at a certain setting, and you only really get a little here and there. So you would probably need, if you want all the generations of a Van Halen tone, you'd probably need most of them. That's another $150, and then they put out the new ones, and that's another $50.
Right. Yeah, I have yet to buy one. I just like,
Okay.
I think that the thing is that there are on ToneNet, there's a lot of bad ones. Occasionally there's the content creators will give you free ones, and those are always the ones that I go for. Yeah, though, like, I'll look and see, like, oh, this guy has it. And there's a couple. Like, I think I told you there's a guy, Amalgam. He's got really, really good captures. I think Tone Junkie has some good ones as well. Sometimes they're a little flat to me, but he has a couple of good ones. There's a couple of them, but to me, Amalgam is like the best one on there that sells the
Have you
captures.
experimented with a lot of, like, if you had a tone that you really liked, or an amp
Mhm.
capture that you really liked, and then you experimented with not just different guitars like a P90, or you have
Mhm.
the humbucker, or you have the Strat kind of thing. Have you also taken like different Strats, different
Oh
pickups,
yeah,
and then do they sound
absolutely.
completely different? Do some of them sound like
Yes,
crap? And like, I mean,
yes,
really?
yes, yes. Yeah, and like, it's so funny, man. I was like, the other day, I had my HSS Strat, and I was just like, for a second, for me, I was like, why does this sound like shit? You know what I mean? And then because the other one that I had was playing with my I was playing with my American, and obviously, like, it is sensitive, so it's like there has so it's like everything is obviously going to sound based on like how you have the settings. So when I go with captures on my own pro, like, so you have your presets, I literally will be like, red strat, like, all right, red strat, Timmy, gain one, so that way when I go through, I know, like, if I want to use my Charvel, I have everything set up for different guitars, so
Dude,
yeah,
that's
it's
super interesting. And again, that's one of those things that you don't stumble on until you actually do it, right? So you could have everything
yeah.
perfectly set up. You have 5 different guitars, but there's one guitar you've been playing for the last month, and that's the only thing. And now you're using this TONEX for the whole month, and blah. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I want to play this guitar. And now everything is thrown off.
But think about it, dude. It's the same thing. It's just like, if you came over to my house and you were playing through my rig, you're gonna be like, dude, can I play with the EQ? You know what I mean? So it
Yeah,
makes
but again,
sense
there's a
hypothetically.
simplicity to that where if I plug into any amp with a really good guitar, I will get a good tone out of it. Now I'll
Well,
have to change
yeah,
certain
but is
things.
it
You know what I mean?
your tone? Is it the sound you want, though? That's the
Right.
thing.
But what I'm saying is sometimes I'll plug in like I'll have that Katana Go and I'll plug that in, and sometimes I'll plug in. There's one guitar I have that just sounds. I don't know if it's the wiring, if it's the pickup, whatever it is. It just does not get a good tone out of that Katana Go at all.
Mm, hmm.
It's just it's not that it's a bad tone. It's just so unresponsive, and it's a
Right.
good guitar playing through a normal amp. And I do notice that it's definitely different than every other guitar I have, but not to the point where I would expect it would be so different that I'm like, man, I don't even want to play this.
Yeah.
It's very strange. Um, so hey, one thing I want to talk about too is if we go on to the talking about the new guys, just so we could have a few different topics in this little thing is
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
the
Sure.
the one. So I was watching Jam Tracks. Is it no? It, Tune Tracks. I don't know who that
Okay.
does that.
Okay.
They put out a thing of a compilation thing. I think it just came out today or whatever. And I only
Okay.
watched it once briefly or whatever. But it's like 10 guitar players, and there's literally out of all of them, I think there was only one that I've ever heard of, Justin Derrico. I
Okay.
think he's on The Voice, or he's one of those guys. But I mean,
Yeah,
he
he's Pink's
tours.
guitar player. Right.
That's
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Super. One of my. Funny enough, there are so many guys. I was talking to somebody the other day. They were playing. It was just actually at Thanksgiving. They were telling me their list when they go running, and they were talking about uh, Queensryche, uh, Motley Crue.
Okay.
There was somebody else that they said that was again all these bands that Scorpions. And I was like, oh my god, I heard a Scorpions tune on the radio yesterday, and it was so good. But it's not something I try and listen to or I put on. But I used to listen to them a ton when I was a kid, and so
Okay.
listen. There's so many albums and things that were a huge part of my life, but I wouldn't necessarily, if we do the top 10 lists of all these things, they'd never come on those top 10 lists, which is
Sure.
a shame.
Sure.
So one day we're going to have to come up with a, top 5 or 10 list of bands that really influenced us, guitar players even. Like there's Adrian Vandenberg. Dude, I loved him. He would never be on my top 5 list because there's just so many other guys I really focus on. But
Sure.
man, he was a huge part of my life. So even this whole thing with these 10 guys playing, 9 of them I've never heard of. Justin Derrico I have, and I love everything I hear about him, but I never learn or transcribe his stuff or really, it's funny. So anyway, so
It's
this
hard.
tune.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's like, it's hard too because, uh, like, algorithmically, if that's a word, algorithmically, that's you know, I don't know like how to find new guys. So, that's part of it. The other part of it is that I don't necessarily, like I'm content with learning Robin Ford, 40-year-old Robin Ford licks and Larry Carlton tunes. Like I'm still learning that stuff, man. Like I don't need, like I'm still learning how to play Time Odyssey from Vinnie Moore. You know what I mean? Like so there's all of that too, like I still am challenged by the guys that influence me. Like
Yeah.
I have a lifetime of Joe Pass to listen to and try to cop, like so I
Well,
don't
that's
know,
we've talked about that
it's
too
like
before, because I was saying how I go down that rabbit hole and there's a couple guys that play really good Alan Holdsworth stuff, and I'm fascinated by
right.
that. I don't dive into it as much as I used to, but then I'll see that and I'm like, oh my god, and then I'll transcribe their stuff and I'm like, wait a second, why don't I go back to the stuff that is that
Source.
stuff? And so, like you're
Yeah.
saying, even I don't need a ton of new guys, but what I love doing is watching these things, because I'll never see these. Like, I would have never known Guthrie Govan or any of these guys had I not gone down that Jam Track Central rabbit hole.
Sure.
And
So there
then
is there is that. Yeah, there is
yes,
guys that push the boundary of and also like I love when guys are not necessarily following one style. Like I love the whole neo soul thing. I think the neo soul thing is so creative, and like just the way they combine the chord playing and the single note stuff, and to me that's like that is just mind blowing. Like I literally would sit there and practice and learn how to play D'Angelo tunes and
right.
all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there are guys I want to see, but at the end of the day, it's just like I'm still trying to learn how to play newages from Django. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
there's
Like
only so much time, and that's the whole thing with all the, again, this gear. There's only so much time in a day. So if I'm going to go down the rabbit hole again, I'm using this Stream Deck thing, and I'm doing all these, and then the TONEX thing, and then these pedals, and it's like, okay, now I'm not even playing or practicing. Now I go back. I went back, and this week I wanted to show a bunch of things. I just don't have it hooked up right now. But there was a Vinnie Moore thing, Tempest, that I was learning, and I was having a problem with the picking. And I'm pretty really, but I analyze everything, right? So I'm really analyzing. Okay, are my fingers not working? Is my picking not working? What's not working? And I was having a problem getting the muting of that and the actual picking of those notes. Now, the way it's transcribed in a lot of things, it's one note per string arpeggio, as opposed to doing the arpeggio with two notes on one string and then one note on another. And I realize with my knowledge of watching Vinny, I think it's more the two note on one string and one note, where everybody else is playing the three note on one string. Now that adds to the complexity of how you mute those strings with your right hand. So I'm going down this rabbit hole of all this, and then there was something else. A Whitesnake solo. I love some of those John Sykes solos. There was Still of the Night. So that solo has this one real fast picking thing, and it goes up. And when you slow it down, now everybody that transcribes it, I see it's transcribed two or three different ways, and it's always, the notes are totally different, because it's such a slur of notes that he doesn't even stay in key, and he's not purposely going out of key.
right, right,
It's
right,
sloppy, but it works because it's this wash of notes going from
right,
here to here, and everything
right.
in between goes up, then down, then up,
He's
and then to
blowing through
this.
it fast enough, and he's also got enough grease on his tone where
Exactly.
it just, yeah,
But then, so when I transcribed that, what I wanted to show, and maybe next week I'll show it, it was, I think I found what he was trying to do. And it makes sense. And the thing that when you're transcribing, you hear certain slurs. And when you hear a note played and then a thing between the next note, you know that's a slide. So when you're playing a pattern and then you hear that slide, you're like, well, it can't be this way that I'm playing it, because this note goes up to this note, and then you have to be able to play these next two notes, and that's a weird pattern for your fingers.
Right.
So you can't be playing it with the third finger, because these two fingers have to play those notes on the same string. So it's so crazy transcribing and getting it right. And it's not necessary that you have to get it right. You can play it however works for you. But I had one pattern going that was working, and it sort of didn't make sense, but it still worked. And then I went back the next day, and I was like, yeah, but that doesn't. And then I found the way, and I was like, oh, he's sliding with the first finger here, and you could hear the longer slur, and then he's not really playing this note, but I think there's a pause in there where he probably was playing that note.
Right.
So there's all these things. Dude, it was fascinating. And even those little chromatic notes where you see he meant to do this, but and there's a way in transcribing too that you do. Carl Culpepper, who was my teacher at AIM, who was the transcribing guy, worked for Hal Leonard and Cherry Lane.
Sure.
Studied under Wolf Marshall. Great player too. He always, when I was doing all those transcriptions of Alan Hines and stuff, he's like, there's a difference between transcribing correct and transcribing intent. So when a player is intending to do something, and you know he's intending to, but he misses a note, now if that note made a really slick, cool thing, you may want to notate that. But you may also want to notate it the way he intended to do a certain thing. So it's a decision thing.
It's interesting.
But anyway, it was just a fascinating little journey going down that rabbit hole. And I wanted to show it today, but I was so busy setting up these monitors with the new stands and the mics. And
Was that what you were working on? Is that what you were working on this week? Because I know we spoke on Tuesday and you were working on that.
Yep. So I was doing the Vinnie Moore thing, but I was really doing that White Snake thing, because I remember in high school, and this is talking, I mean, I'm old as shit, but 30 years ago, or I mean, it's probably more than that, but I want to say 30 just to make it sound like I'm young. But there was they did a Battle of the Bands. Did you ever have that in your high school?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Every year
we were in the battle. We were in the Battle of the Bands.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's amazing. So we had two bands, and in the gym, we had at one end of the gym the stage was set up, and another end of the gym and they'd come out and they'd play 2 or 3 songs. And one band was some of my favorite. Like I played on basketball team. I was always real big into sports, and it was more those kind of guys. It was the basketball or the sports guys, and they were playing U2, Eurythmics, and some of those kind of things. And the other guys were the heavy metal guys, and they were playing Metallica, White Snake, White Lion, Van Halen, and those guys were crushing it, dude. And they would play some of the White Snake stuff. And dude, back then, again, you're going off of transcriptions that maybe you saw in a magazine, but I know these kids' ears weren't good enough to learn, but it sounded awesome. So I'm sitting there thinking nowadays, I'm like, okay, I know they didn't play it exactly note for note, but it still had that vibe and the feel.
Right.
So is it that important to get everything note for note? Nah, I guess not.
Well, I mean, it depends. It's like, I mean, if you're just, again, it just goes to your level of where you want to be. If you want, I would like, if I'm going to pay for a transcription, I would like it to be accurate. But, again, if you're teaching it to some kid, it's just like, dude, here you go. Here's this, you know what I mean? Like, and when I figure, again, if I figure something out, obviously you're the guy that transcribes stuff, pretty much for a living. But, if I figure something out, I can maybe get like 80% there and be happy, because that's what my ability is. I can sit there and like the way that I'll do it, I'll just get, I'm like, all right, I just want to be able to get enough figured out and then kind of tighten it up, and have it and really get the timing is the most important thing for me, almost even more than the notes when I'm learning something. Because if you have the timing all wrong, it's going to sound completely terrible.
100%. And so I was talking to, we'll get on in a second, Alan Hines. I've been talking to him a lot this week, and we'll talk about some of
Okay.
that stuff. But we were talking about transcribing and what he wants to do with some of the stuff we're about to do. And he was talking about how important the transcribing is. But Josh, real quick, the Taj Farrant, I have never heard, I think I've heard of that, and I may have even seen something of that. Do you know anything about that?
No, I saw that as well. I wanted to respond. I don't. I'm gonna, as soon as we get done, I'm gonna go Google that.
I'm gonna actually do it right now on YouTube. See, I think I'm familiar with that because again, Taj is such a unique name. Farint. Taj Farrant. Oh my God, 9-year-old guitarist Taj Farrant. Okay, but he looks older now, of course. Oh my God, the first thing that popped up is a 9-year-old kid, Tennessee whiskey. He's definitely young. I mean, even his, he's got a website, or he's got a YouTube. He's a Australian guitarist musician known for remarkable talent, young age, gained recognition through social media, blah, blah, blah. That's his YouTube. Every video is black and white, which is funny, but a lot of Stevie Ray stuff. Sky is Crying. He wears one of those Stevie Ray kind of hats. I remember Josh Smith, when he first started, he wore one of those hats. It's funny when you're younger and you have these idols and you want to look like them, and which is totally cool. Isn't it? You know, you go through this growth period.
Sure. Then you stop giving a crap.
Right, exactly. And then this kid's only got, oh no, he's got 315,000 subscribers. Damn, that's pretty. And his channel started 2013, so he's doing pretty good, man. Yeah, I'll take a look at that for sure. Look up something newer. Okay, we'll definitely check that out for sure. So the Alan stuff, Alan Hines. He's been, we've been talking a little bit. We're going to get back onto that. We had a 9-package lesson package for, we have a melodic minor thing. If anybody's not familiar, Alan Hines teaches at Guitar Breakdown. He did. But at Musicians Institute, GIT. And he's been one of the, between him and Scott Henderson, those guys have been the open counseling kings. I mean, everybody sits in on their classes. Alan Hines is just, his tone, feel, and everything about him is amazing. And we've done a bunch of, the first lesson package we did on him was a blues fusion kind of thing, which was a solo he did at the Baked Potato. I forget the name of the tune, but it was such an amazing, like 2.5 minute solo that I contacted him immediately and said, dude, I'm going to transcribe this. I said, I need to do a lesson package on this. I need you to break down some of the stuff you actually did in this, and then I'll do the rest of the lesson. So he did an hour and a half breakdown of it. It's, our website's got to get back up and running. If anybody wants to contact me. We're still selling that stuff. We're going to get it back up. But it was one of my favorite lesson packages because he did an hour and a half of lesson material talking about, you know, I don't know exactly what I played here, but it was similar. And a lot of the stuff are similar licks to what he still plays, but a lot of melodic minor kind of stuff, a lot of chromaticism, but totally bluesy. It's got a lot of dynamics. The solo builds. It's one of my favorite solos he ever did live at the Baked Potato, or live anywhere that I've seen. And so we did that, and then I did like another hour and a half to probably 2 hours of extra content, which was breaking down note for note. Okay, this is what he was playing. This is the troubles I had with it. This is what I take out of it. And again, it was fully transcribed in very meticulous manner. The way I like to transcribe is where everything can be read like a book. So you open that transcription up, and if the note hangs this long before he picks the next part, or if I want to notate that so you could read that, as opposed to a lot of these things, especially in Guitar Pro, they'll notate a bend, and then you have the bend, then you have the next note, but you don't know how long that bend is held out, or if that note bleeds into the next note you pick, or the little slurs. There's just so many things about notation that I've seen Steve Vai notate very, very accurate. It becomes, again, this is the thing. You don't want it to be too busy to where it just doesn't, visually you can't extrapolate anything, but you also don't want it to be too loose to where you lose all those nuances. So there's that little, it's an art. It really is an art. in how to do this. And the programs aren't very helpful because transcription programs generally aren't just geared to only guitar, right?
Right.
So understanding that there are different ways to bend and different ways to slur, whether it's a slide's just a note here and there, but some of those slurs are slower or longer, and all those things make differences in the overall combination of all those nuances. It really combines together to be like, that's why it sounds that way. If you don't do this one little thing, it's not like you have to, but if you're really trying to achieve, why doesn't what I play sound exactly what they play? It's those little nuances for the most part. So Alan, we were talking about, he's like, man, I really want to get back. He was doing some stuff with Rick Beato recently, and he talks to him every once in a while, and Rick is saying, man, you got to get back up and running with these lesson packages, and you got to really offer some more stuff. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it, whether we're going to split it where we do a lesson package and we sell it on Guitar Breakdown and his website, or if we do it one-on-one, or if we start this whole new universe of just Alan Hines stuff where he's just, it's like Alan Hines Academy kind of thing, which I think would be fascinating. I think a lot of people would enjoy that. He's got such a unique voice, and
dude, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's cool news, man. That's freaking like, that's very cool news.
Yeah. So I think we're going to meet next week or something and just figure this out. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I did tell him he's got to definitely. He's not a marketer. He doesn't like to market any of this. For years, I've been saying,
right,
dude, every once a month, once every 2 weeks, whatever it is, just go on YouTube and say, hey guys, I got this lesson package. It's been out for a while, but if you haven't heard about it, just check this out. And he's so busy playing, tearing apart guitars, selling guitars. He's got this one guitar he bought, I think, for $8,000, this Les Paul, and he's selling for like $25,000. There's some guy, this pretty wealthy guy that just loves it so much, and he's busy in that world. So when it comes to all social media, you notice he's really not on social media all that much at all. So it'll be an interesting. Hopefully next year. We're going to talk about it in the next couple of weeks. We got the Christmas holiday and everything, but starting in January, I think everything's going to be up and running. Our website, blah blah blah. Anybody looking for lessons?
Well, I definitely think, like, I mean, if I have any input into any of this as a all right, I'll stop. No, I would, and I know you had told me this, and I was like, wow, the rhythm stuff that he does, I think, is really good, and I think his all like the stack triad stuff that he does, like that's finger picked, that he does, like with his, he does the hybrid stuff, like the rhythm. That stuff is beautiful, man. And like his composition, like I would love to see that kind of stuff. I mean,
so we have a lesson package. We again, I have so much stuff. I have a Josh Smith lesson package that I think is awesome. And I haven't talked to Josh in quite a while, actually. But when we had stopped doing this stuff, like I said, about a decade ago, I started working at Disney Imagineering, and that was my dream job. I always wanted to work in theme park entertainment. I do 3D animation, and I do theme park design. And when I got that, I kind of fell off the map. I was just so enthralled with. I just love that world. I love the fantasy world of it. The artistic stuff. I did a thing on, there's a new theme park called Epic Adventure, and that's a Universal thing, and I worked 3 years on that, and they just did a documentary on, I think it's it might be Paramount or something.
Okay.
Paramount, yeah, one of those.
It's cool, dude.
Yeah. And the first episode, it's a three-part series. I think it's an hour and a half, 2 hours each. And the first part is design and development. Half my artwork is up there. It's just awesome. And I wasn't ever a huge Universal fan, only because Disney is magical in the way, if you go to their theme parks, these are things that people don't realize, because it just is. Same thing with music. You hear this music and you're like, nobody questions why it feels this way, or why, but there's so many intricate parts. Well, theme park is the same way. Like when you go into Disney and you actually go down the road of, you go into say Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars stuff. By the time my mic is doing goofies. Oh, hold on. Let me do this thing. This is goof. Son of a bitch. So funny.
You're going, you're vamping. Next thing you know, kablam!
I got to get off this lav mic thing. It just come anyway. So much noise. So anyway, so the theme park thing is fascinating. So if you go from the main park into like a Galaxy's Edge, you're slowly transitioning through a long path, and like, why is it so long? Well, because then all of a sudden you start getting a little bit of sound effects, and you're not noticing it. And then as you get further, there's a little theme music that's Star Wars. And then as you get deeper in, the facades are so tall that you can't see anything outside of that world. So now you're fully immersed. So now
Right.
when it comes to Universal, especially Hollywood here, there's not enough land to really do that. So almost everything in Universal, you could see the other worlds, you could see the Hollywood Hills, you could see the houses up there. Like you're just
Right.
not immersed in it. So the fact that you in this, but now this new epic adventure place in Florida is unbelievable. The things they did with the animatronics, the things they did with everything. It is
That's cool, dude.
almost perfection, dude. So I was fascinated by this. But anyway,
So that's where you went pretty much when you were like kind of you took the break from Guitar Breakdown.
right. So now with the Alan stuff and the Josh stuff, I already had lesson packages that we had. We had this one Josh lesson package that was 5 or so of his favorite tunes that he played on his albums. And not only were we offering his tunes, but we were offering, he was improvising over those tunes in a totally different way, just taking them as backing tracks almost. And then we were and those solos were just, I mean, he was on target with those things. So then Alan, we had 2 lesson packages. One was a rhythm lesson package, and then 2 of them were jam track things, backing tracks. And those are all finished, ready to go. I just have to do the website stuff. I think one has to have half transcription still done. But the rhythm one, I think that's the one that we didn't finish, because transcribing rhythm is there's so many elements to it, and there's so many rhythmic parts to it, and it's not like doing a solo where you have a scale, then you have some bending, and you have this, and have some subtlety. Rhythm is so, especially the way Alan plays it, there's so many dynamic things going on.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to reshoot that one. We discussed it a little bit. I said, man, it's a lot of good stuff, and I'd like to use it, but if we only did 90% of that, and since this is 10 years ago. He looks different. His tones are different. So I think we're going to reshoot the whole thing. But that rhythm package, I think, is going to be amazing.
Well, dude, I would say, man, that is exciting stuff. That is really cool that you guys are, I know you were telling me about it, and every week it looks like you're getting closer and closer to kind of getting it going. So I'm super pumped for that.
Yeah. So, and one real quick thing to get back to that thing, just so we can tie it together. That Tune Tracks thing I heard with like the 10 or 12 different people, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Out of all that, the Justin Derrico was really great. I didn't hear I was trying to set this up, so I only heard half of it. Each one plays maybe a minute solo, so it's 10 or 12 minutes long or something like that. But there was one guy, never had heard of, and it's more of a prog kind of thing, the whole jam. And which is funny to hear Justin Derrico play prog kind of stuff. I mean,
Okay.
His wheelhouse is pretty much everything. But there's a guy named Thom Pankhurst, Thom,
Okay.
is his first name, Thom, then Pankhurst. And I don't have the time where but dude, he was playing some really cool, unique, like, 1 note per string. Well, that doesn't even, like, pivoting note arpeggios where he was doing like skipping strings to kind of get an octave displacement kind of thing going on. His phrasing was excellent, dude. I'm gonna send you the link to that video, and I want you to see if
please.
anybody stands out. Just watch the whole thing and tell me if there's anybody that really stands out to you. Because I was really, really impressed by that. And I love watching those kind of videos because, again, it just gets me excited for for the weekend or something. I'm just like,
No,
okay.
I need new players. I mean, not that I'm bored on the old ones, but yeah, no, we definitely we need some new inspiration. But so I think as we kind of get to the end of this, I know we were talking before, kind of going back to the the whole TONEX Helix and thing, but we had talked about Joe Bonamassa and his hearing, and that's I was just kind of thinking about that, man. That's crazy. And as we get older, you're talking about your eyesight. Yeah, I go to the gym and I'm like, I can't do anything anymore, man. Like I mean, my shoulders hurt, my back hurts, and I mean, like, I just you sit there and you get into your 50s and you're just like, holy crap, man, I am falling apart. But you think about like as a guitar player, I think about like the stuff that scares me the most, like, is my hands. Yeah, just like the tendonitis, maybe something with the wrist. I do have a bad shoulder. Um, so, I'm very cognizant about all of that. I'm very cognizant about warming up. I'm very cognizant about, like when I work out, not to do anything that's going to hurt my shoulder. So I can't play guitar because that's all I love to do. But the one thing, when you think about it, like if you're a gigging musician, that is your hearing. And it's funny. I don't think I have any hearing loss. I had a hearing test. I want to say maybe like 5 years ago, or no, it was before the pandemic. Probably 10 years ago, I had a hearing test, and the audiologist said that my ears were in really good shape, which was like amazing because I played a lot of gigs, man, and I stood in front of the wedges, and I had the back line in back of me and the drums, and um I always wore my earplugs, so I guess maybe that was the saving grace. But I when I read that, whole thing with Joe, and he said that he had lost, like his top end of his hearing, man, that's scary stuff. Because also, if you go to see like the older players, the, their tones, like I remember people were saying like George Lynch's tone has changed, and then like I read a comment on one of the new Warren DeMartini, Steve Piercy videos where somebody was saying his tone definitely sounds different. It's because these guys blew out all the top end of their hearing. They can't, and when I met George at one time, his hearing is shot. I mean, so it's like, it's weird, but it's just like, that's, you gotta you gotta take care of the you gotta take care of your hearing, man, because once you lose those nerves, they don't come back.
Dude,
And
and that's especially so.
especially now that's how you make your living, man.
So that's the thing that again, you go through different phases of your life, right? And this is one of those. I think I said last time. I think there should be a class that you have when you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, every 10 years, every decade. Just a class that teaches you. Listen, these are the things that are going to happen to you that nobody's telling you about, that you should know, and just because you don't know until you know. And the problem is that's way too late. So back in the day when we used to listen to headphones with the Sony, we're old with the
Mhm.
tape players, the Sony Walkman, and man, we used to blast it, and you would hear nobody go if anybody's watching this. And you look up old Walkman headphones, they're not these
Yeah.
headphones, right? They're not the little iPod. They're like these weird, like it's got a disc in it with a styrofoam over it, and you could hear
Yes.
everything, especially if you play it loud, which we all did. And you would hear it from 5 feet away from you. You'd hear what's coming out of that speaker. And so they're not close. So all this stuff is pushed up against your ear. And for years of doing that, you're killing that. And I have the what is that called? Tinnitus. So I have this
Or
right
you
here in
have
my,
you have
oh dude,
tinnitus?
yeah. And I
Dude,
didn't
I'm
know it for
sorry.
years. I did not. So when I moved out from New Jersey to California, we have in New Jersey you have crickets at night. You have you have those little things. Out here for years, probably 7 to 10 years, I just thought that's what it was at night. I thought it was crazy because I don't hear it until the sound is off. So if I'm watching TV, if I'm talking to friends, if I'm at a party, I don't hear it. But the minute I go to sleep, you just hear this little like this just high pitched, very, very
Wow.
faint thing.
And now,
And
did you do a lot of like loud playing and gigging and stuff?
nope. But what I, funny enough, again, at music school, dude, we get on that stage twice a week and we are cranking the amps. And it was a small room, but still, you're playing, you're just
Right.
having fun. So
Right.
you're cranking. You got a drummer behind you that
Well, it's the
crushes.
cymbal. It's the cymbal hit.
Yep.
It's if your singer drops the mic and that
Yep.
hits you. For me, dude, I remember there was one show we had played, and I remember like the next day. I think that was the one time I got freaked out. Literally, like the whole day, like my ears were muffled, and like if I talked, I could hear them. I could hear my voice in my ears, kind of like if I'm wearing headphones. Like it's everything is compressed. Yeah, it was for like a day, and I wasn't. It was funny. Like I was probably at the beginning part of my gigging, so like as soon as that happened, I ran out and I got them because I had used them at GIT and music school, and then I stopped using it when I was gigging because I wanted to hear stuff. But then I stopped that pretty quickly, man. And I think that's what kind of saved my hearing because um, I have so many friends that I didn't realize you have tinnitus too. I have so many friends that have it, and they tell me it drives them
Dude, and
crazy,
so
man.
that's the problem too, right? So live performers use inner ears a lot of times, right? So you can actually control some things. You can it helps. Now, but the problem is, no matter what you do, same thing with an amp, a modeler, and all this, everything changes slightly, and you're mixing two things between the sound that you're hearing, the sound that you want to produce that the audience hears, or if you're doing live or whatever, or if you're recording, same thing, the
Yep.
sound that you want to feel. There's that feel thing. So you have all these dynamics. But like Joe Bonamassa, there's a certain tone he wants to go for that only you get from cranking those amps and having all that air blowing and all that kind of stuff. And but at the end of the day, something's going to happen. There's a cause and effect to everything. I mean, there's energy
Sure.
pushing and pulling all the time if you want to get into silly science. And there's things that are constantly happening. And the problem is when we ruin certain things that they don't teach you. They say, dude, you may want to lay back on some of this because once you lose that, once you have that tinnitus in your ear, you're never getting that back. So you're going to have this
Right.
constant ringing. And I have some people that have this ringing that has split now. So now you have, first of all, my pitch, I think it's a C note, which at least that's within the realm of most keys, right? So if I have that pitch, if it's split to just below like C, where it's not anything, it's just that, man, that would kill me because it already does when
Oh
I'm
my
using headphones and I'm trying
god.
to do something. Things sound slightly warbly out of tune. It's not
Yeah.
horrible, but then I have friends that have like, say they had a C note and then it breaks into like
That's crazy, dude.
a,
I had
a,
no idea.
a D flat, right? So now they have a
Ugh.
C, and it doesn't even break into a D. It breaks into like slightly below a D flat. Now you have like enharmonic, like you have things happening constantly in your ear. Now when you're listening to music and that's happening, dude, it. So Joe, I can imagine you're like, okay, if your top end rolls off, right, and you know that that's the fact, and you're playing to an audience that's hearing, so maybe you can dial in something that maybe is not pleasing to your ear but the audience hears better, right? It cuts through
Right.
better
Well,
and all
that's
this.
it. Then you're gonna have to really rely on
Yep.
your guys
But
to
now the
like.
problem is you're hearing back what you don't like to hear in your ear because something's rolled
Right.
off.
Right.
Now you
Right.
feel so there's almost
Yeah.
something there has to I wonder if there's a technology where you can hear what you like, but what gets
Yeah.
pushed out to everybody else is something totally
Like like
different.
like beer goggles for your ear.
Right, exactly. That's a good invention. We should do
There you
that.
go.
All right.
Beer goggles for your ear.
I'm
We're gonna
gonna
get right
delete
on
that
it.
from this feed because I'm inventing that. That's amazing. But anyway, so everybody, I hope you guys are having a great time. I think we should probably wrap this up. We're getting close to your bedtime, I think.
I know. That's it.
Josh, thank you if you're still around. Thank you for the comments and the information. I am definitely going to look into some of the stuff that you mentioned, the FR kind of thing, the Tonex cab, and you're going to be around for, we got only 2 weeks, I think, before I'm back for the
I
holidays.
know.
So we're
The
going to
big
hook up.
party.
I think we're gonna kind of hook up and kind of do a. I don't know if it's gonna be a live feed, but we're gonna do something where we go to some guitar centers in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna hang, catch up, maybe grab a slice. You'll have your phone with you, so we'll
Yep.
film some live stuff, and I'll bring my little mics so you can plug them in, and
Yep.
you
I'm
know,
sure
so we
Lawler will
want
be playing, so maybe we could hook up and check him out playing something live or something, or maybe go into the
to, yeah,
city and go see the Bitter End. I'm sure Osnoy will be playing or something, or
something's
something like
going on.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely hang. So I know that'll be. It's hard to believe, man. Here we are, another season of holidays are
2027.
upon
Let's
us.
do this.
Aye, 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 aye.
And
But
actually,
yeah,
speaking of the whole audio thing, like this whole thing. I'm trying to do this producing thing of this podcast, and like I'm sure people are hearing this noise. If I turn off my mic right now,
right. They're like, yeah,
there's silence. So there's, I don't know if you're hearing that. I'm trying to figure this, but I'm trying to figure out the noise, the compensation, the tones that I
right.
hear compared to the tones that you hear. It's a constant rabbit hole and game, and we'll figure it out better. Hopefully next year we're really gonna have this dialed in. So if
Even if we
anybody
don't,
else,
who cares? You know what I mean? Let's just
we're having
let's
fun.
just let's just we're having fun. We're hanging out. It's Friday night. It
But
is
I
what it is,
appreciate
dude.
everybody. I do see we have a constant viewership this week, which is really good, and I keep wanting to grow this. So if anybody wants to have us talk about certain things, please do contact us. Do write in the comments after this thing, and let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to talk about, and we will get on that. Lesson packages are still available at Guitar Breakdown. Contact us, and hope you guys are having a great holiday season, and we'll see you next Friday. Peace
Talk
out,
to y'all
everybody.
later.
Later. How do I stop this thing?